Well, hello there, and welcome once again to my little arty corner of the internet. My name's Angela, and I like to draw. I like to draw an awful lot. It's what I do. But thank you for joining me. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much. If you're new to this channel, I do hope you enjoy what you see. And if you are a new subscriber, you are most welcome and very much appreciated, just as all the old subscribers, all the people who've given me thumbs up, who've shared my videos. I appreciate each and every one of you and who've watched them through to the end. I know most of them are really quite long because I draw in real time with you, and I do witter an awful lot. But I really love drawing. I love abstract art, as in abstractions, using things in a different way, things that really aren't representative of anything but are just really interesting or pretty patterns, pleasing patterns. And I think it's best described as non-representational art, although things do end up looking representational from time to time. Anyway, I've got some things to show you before I do anything else. So this was yesterday's. No, it wasn't. That was the 3rd. This was yesterday's drawing. Yeah, I've smudged. I'll explain why in a moment. But I've added some colour to some of these, and you go from this to this, even though the colours are yucky. It helps to bring out the different forms. I know you can do it with shadow and highlight as well, but I'm on a colour kick. Yeah, I know I keep saying I'm going to abandon colour, but I keep going back to it. And as I've discovered, this mixed media paper works really quite nicely with watercolour to a degree. Then I will play with it to get more familiar and learning more and developing the techniques that I learnt from somebody on YouTube who I forgot to link in yesterday's description box, which I'm likely to forget about again today. So if you want to know, leave a comment and I'll always respond to that because I'm not overwhelmed with comments at this time. I think I may have added a couple more on the bottom. I can't remember. I've got an irregular shaped one here. I can't remember if I did that. I don't think I did because the ink looks different. And that's why this is here, because my TWSBI, I think that's how you'd pronounce it, Eco pen, arrived yesterday. It's got a fine nib, and my reason for doing this is I said I'm quite concerned about the number of pens I get through and that you can't refill them or put new nibs into them. You can with the Copic multi-liner ones, the metallic barreled ones, which I do have a set of, but they're too heavy. I say they're too heavy. They just don't feel comfortable in my hands. I'm not a fan of them. I don't like the way they draw, the line they leave. And so I've been hankering after one of these. And when I realised you can get them with fine and extra fine nibs, I thought, right, let's have a look. But the other condition was I wanted a permanent ink, a waterproof ink, in the same way that the microns and the unipins are waterproof. And so I had a look for some ink, and this is actually the one that I settled on. It's not specifically drawing ink, but it's ink, and I guess any ink you put there. It's called Documentus. Who's it made by? Rohrer and Klinger. It's German. It comes in this cute little cardboard box, I do have to say. And it's designed for signing documents. It's document ink, it's waterproof, it's archival because it's meant to last, and it's designed to use in fountain pens, which as long as you don't let them dry out, you don't have to wash out after every use. And that was another condition, because I didn't want the fuss and faff of buying a permanent ink that you can use in a fountain pen, but then you have to wash it out after every use, or if you're going to leave it for more than a day, you have to wash it out, and that would suck as far as I'm concerned. And so I thought, right, we'll get this and see. The ink is lovely. It's rich black. Like all inks, it takes a little while to dry, so you have to be cognizant of that if you're drawing with them. This was because I didn't wipe the point off properly after filling it, and I got some blobs, and but it's fine. And the other reason I got this one is because it's called an Eco for whatever reason, but it's got a piston filler. This bit here is actually the ink reservoir, and it's huge. And I went for one that I refill, so I don't have to use plastic cartridges. I know I can refill plastic cartridges, and I think in some of my other favourite pens I use for drawing, particularly the ones that got the very fine lines, because I've been naughty, I've ordered an extra fine of these, but I suspect that a couple of I think the Pilot Kakunos may have the extra fine, maybe finer still. I can fill the cartridges that are in there with the ink if I use a syringe. So I will still do that. Others you can get, I'm not sure if you can get converters for the Kakunos because they're relatively budget friendly. I think they're about they're about half the price of this, less than half the price of this. But certainly I'll be able to use them in my Lamies, Lammies, if I get some converters for them, which is going to be a costly thing because I have many of them, but I can do it slowly over time. So that's fine because I need to use them. And I've got plenty of cartridges that I will use up because, you know, I've bought them and that's it. But the ink in those isn't permanent. So anyway, that's why I've got the splodge. And that's my thinking behind these. And also, I really enjoy drawing with a fountain pen. And the biggest reason I haven't done so much of it is that the ink isn't waterproof. Because I only had a really rubbishy, well, it wasn't a rubbishy, it was a really good laser printer, but scanning in and printing out again, I couldn't put any old paper, or any kind of paper in I wanted to. Now I've got an Epson EcoTank printer. The ink on that is permanent, waterproof. And so I can print on, and it will take paper. I've printed out on mixed media paper already, and it works beautifully. So there we are. So that's yesterday's. I haven't finished them, just the same as the day before. I haven't finished them, but it gives me an idea of what I could do. It's also very good practice for me using watercolours and other media, and getting my fix of glitter out. My inner raven will not be tonight. That sparkle and shine. So there's that. It's Wednesday today, then that means it's template Thursday on a Wednesday. So here you are, kind of quick sneak peek at this week's colouring template. You might notice I've used some of the fragments I've been drawing in here, and I love Morisot. That one has really grown on me. But some medieval flowers and leaves have appeared here as well. And that's a very unusual kind of fragment. I actually did this in the wee small hours of this morning when I woke up not able to sleep. And I've since realised that this actually is a variation of the fragment I'm going to do today. And I didn't realise this was the fragment I was going to do today, and I didn't realise this echoed it until I had a look at it. It's not exactly one of my variations, but it's there. But I've got some whimsy in with some butterflies and things as well there, some stars and moons. So I hope my lovely lot in the Facebook group will enjoy it. That's the Angela Porter's Colouring Books Fans Facebook group. So hopefully that'll be a hit. And some bits are a little small, but if you love adult colouring, you don't have to fill in all the little small bits one by one. You could actually just treat them as a whole. So where I've got all of these, you know, the lines here, you just colour that whole section in one colour, and perhaps shades at the edges. Nobody's going to tell you off for doing that. It's your choice. And the same here with all these little bits. You think of this as a texture and you just fill it in one colour. I would do that. Oh, I need to erase some more pencil lines. Excuse my hand going over, because my next job while the video's processing and uploading will be to scan this in and to print it out, because I may venture. Yeah, I love digital colouring, that's my problem. So there's that one. Another one I've been drawing, yeah, I know. I've been doing a lot of drawing. It's because I've not been able to do any amigurumi crochet because 2 evenings of it and my joints are sore, my hands. Ordinary crochet isn't too bad, but the amigurumi, because it's so tight, the stitches, and you use a much smaller hook than you would for the yarn to get that tight texture, and the difficulty as the shape gets smaller and smaller as a tube, I find it really difficult. I'm determined to finish it. I'm doing a pterodactyl for someone, but it's going to take me a while because I have to give my joints a chance to ease up. So this one is another drawing I'm doing, and yep, we have fragments, and it's sort of like spot the fragments in here. Some of the ones I've done in the first couple of days, perhaps in ways I haven't shown them there, but getting there. So that's fun, and it's also been nice because I've been using I started off using a micron, an 05 micron, and I've switched to the TWSBI, and I can't tell which is which. So this TWSBI is equivalent to an 05 micron. Sorted. So I know that now. So there's that one done. Okay, just pop some other paper out my way because I am getting in a pickle. And then I have here, this is today's plethora of fragments, and I apologise for the light. It is beautifully sunny today, and I'm loath to close my curtains while it is because I really need the sunshine. It helps to lift my mood. So if I'm extra wittery today, you know why, because I had a boost of sunshine. Yep. And I'm having some mocha this morning while I wait my Able and Cole delivery. So let's have a look at some of these with you. I'm just going to get a piece of paper. This will be fun because I think, yeah, that one definitely is. I won't be drawing on paper I've coloured with Distress Oxide with my fountain pen because I think that would clog it. I don't think it would damage the nib, but I think I'd be constantly having to clean my nib. So today the fragment I've chosen for today is Zac, spelt XAC, and it's a fragment that or pattern that's been designed by Susan Yeo, CZT, and Susan Yeo is one of the 3 people who form 7 forests, 5 rivers, and I've got it round the wrong way there. Look at that. It should be 7 rivers, 5 forests, and I put 5 forests, 7 rivers. I will blank that out in a moment and perhaps write it in there in white. So this is Zac, and Zac is, again, it's one of those, today I was looking at this and thinking, oh goodness, how can you vary this? And the answer is you can in lots of ways. You've just seen my page full. So Zac is a lovely tangle, and this will be nice because this paper is the Canson Imagine. So I haven't tried drawing on that yet with this pen. So you start with what they're calling in Zentangle a seed shape, this kind of pointy oval, and then you draw an arc that goes from the bottom to the side. And yes, I know I drew it the other way, it's because I'm drawing with a fountain pen. And then all you do is you start at this point and you just repeat that shape, kind of. You don't order it from side to side. You space those lines up the shape. You end up with something that's quite shell shape. It reminds me of a mussel shell. So it's not like this, though this I suppose could be a variation, where you start from the same place each time. Oh, this paper is really absorbent. Now, whether that's a function of the distress ink, I don't know. But you can see this is Zac. This is not Zac, but could be a variation. Could be. And the simplest variations of Zach is to do something that gives you a space in the middle just to perhaps pop a pattern in, which I think is quite nice. And you might have noticed that when I put the lines in, I closely aura'd this one, put another line in with a gap, and then aura'd that. I suppose I could put something in there just to add some interest to the edge, so just dots. I'd keep it simple compared to the other one. The other simple variation is what to do with this shape here. The simplest thing would be to colour it in or aura it either that way and colour it in, or the one I find a bit more interesting is to start a little bit along this arc that we've drawn and go that way, and then you can aura or colour in, and that looks like this is sticking up and we're having a view inside. This one is kind of the same, but I find the illusion with this one is greater. And of course then you can just add the lines in the same way. There we go, so that's Zach. Other variants, I mean, if you have a look, I've got loads of them here. So I've also, oh yeah, that was another one to show. So with this bit is to put a smaller version of that shape inside, and then you can do all things with it. You could put a single seed in, but it looks like an eye. So you put 3 seeds in, it looks like a 3-eyed monster. But you finish the pattern exactly the same way. And actually, as I work with this, I just realised that, little tip, I'm going to pop that in, but my first line I'm going to start at the very top and come down there, and then go back this way. Because I think you get a neater finish there, perhaps. I don't know. Perhaps it's just me imagining things. Okay, so other things to do. Let's keep this the same. And I'm going to draw an aura there. But instead of having the lines going this way, I'm going to have them going this way. And I am going to have them curved parallel to this outside line there, and then just pop the lid on that to stop it from drying out while I'm not using it. I would happily colour in with that black ink, but it would take forever to dry, and as I'm prone to putting my hand into wet ink and smudging things, so that gives a very dramatic kind of finish, and it's also nice to do in this way, adding lots of black to get a lot of drama. I'm going to leave that thin, no, I can't leave that thin white line there. You get the idea, and depending on how close you draw the lines together depends on how many stripes you get. But this one, I think this one needs either, I think I'll pop one of those shapes in, and what is fun to do as well is to have lines that radiate out from a point along the edge. Again, it gives it that feeling that you're looking inside something. You can also do it with in one of those seed shapes. With that one, I did it so the points come out from underneath the main part, but you can actually do it in this direction and it gives a different feel. It's almost, This makes it feel that you're looking in and under, and you really do need a white band right on the edge for that to work well. This one, it's got more the feeling that these are coming out to a point, and it's almost where you could exaggerate this, she says. Okay, let me have a look. So if I take this as the point of the Zaka, you know, the main, that first initial seed shape, and go like that. It's not the best drawn, but if I go like this, it looks like there's something growing out of the middle of this particular Zak. So it is a case of, I suppose it's more like drawing that partly in, putting that part of the shape in, and then that would work. It's a bit of a strange thing, but you know, strange is me. And I think that is something I'm going to keep hold of. Like all of these papers I will, because they will all end up in my sketchbook, because they their value to me as ideas or something to work with. It may be that I'm getting this point, perhaps going in the wrong direction, and perhaps a bit further down would be the best way. That works better. Or perhaps even just bulging out that little bit, perhaps. There we go. Weird seashell shapes. Okay, the other main thing that I did here, and if you limit how many lines you aura that original shape with here, then you can get a big space to fill with pattern. You can also create bands like this, and you can put lines in opposite directions to create more volume, like this one here. And if you do draw Zak big enough, you can get a couple of areas where you can pop these lines in. I'm desperate to know if this spreading of the ink happens on the Canson Imagine paper without distress ink on it, because I know distress ink does do this. So there, and that looks a lot more like a seashell, a weird seashell, but that could be the top of the seashell. Yeah, if I turn it round, it looks more like, you know, that cone you get at the top. And if I didn't put the lines in, I could actually vary that perhaps a little. The other thing that I had to go at was thinking, well, if I've got one of these shapes here, what about adding one the other side? And I found what was useful was putting a dot roughly in the middle of the original shape and drawing an aura line from the point around that way, and then the point around this way, before I add any other aura lines. And again, I can pick these shapes out in whatever way I feel like. There, I'm just going to put those shapes in. So that creates something that's a bit different. I could carry on aura-ing. I haven't. I've done that one. I did this one here, but instead of aura, I filled those gaps with pattern, and there's aura there. But I didn't, and these overlap because I drew them alternating, and I didn't find that centre point to begin with, so I allowed them to overlap, which is an interesting one as well. And I think with that one, if I go back to this, is that I would put these in, but what I would do is to exaggerate these as if they're curling around the shape and hugging it, and a bit of weight would help, I think, with that there, possibly. Drawing in pencil and having them actually curving around would be a fun thing. So if I do that, I can pop these shapes in black. And this would work for a single version of this as well. So we can do this as if they are hugging. The shape within. So that's another variation. I actually quite like that, but it does involve the use of a pencil, which is why I like to use pencils from time to time. I also tried popping this shape on the side, and it works, kind of. But what I found was better was to pop it on two sides, but I think that creates another fragment or a different one. And again, I can get them to meet in the middle like that. So that's a possibility as well. With this one in the middle, you could create the aura patterns like this, which is fun and interesting. You end up with something again that looks very shell-like. Or you could aura them as you would ordinarily. It's a bit different to the Zac, the way that the aura lines are built up in the original Zac, but it is a variation. So I did plenty. Oh, this one was fun. Let me just, as well as putting two of these opposite each other here, or like I have here, putting two side by side at the bottom was an interesting one. And you do get some interesting shapes. Now I popped this in and I thought, oh, it looks almost like a bird of prey if I could put a beak on. But keeping on going, so that's a different way of doing that. Okay, squares. I was thinking, oh gosh, would this work in a square? The answer is yeah. And there are loads of options. There's one in the corner to about halfway up and you send the auras around. This one I put a Zac inside the square. This one I put that Zac shape, that rice shape, it's half a one on one side, opposite sides, part of one here and aura'd it, opposing there. But this one is my favourite. And it's actually, I think it was that one. It wasn't that one, it was one of the others that led to this. But it's where I'm just going to put this kind of shape, but half of it down. And then I'm going to aura it, but I'm going to rotate around. And eventually I'll get to a point where these join back, and I could either leave that central bit open or fill it in or aura it or do something else with it. But these are half Zacs, so if I put another square beside it and mirrored it, I would get a full Zac and keep on repeating it that way. So you could create a grid of Zacs with this. In the same way, this one I would rotate so I get a Zac side by side there. So that was fun. Triangles work, a bit more challenging, I think, but they do work. If I take one of these, and I think you have to aura all the way around the triangle with these. Again, I'll just fill that in. Another variant would be to have the triangle and have a whole zack in, but I would have that an inner eye shape, perhaps a little bit offset, just for interest. So there's a zack in a triangle. And I did a variation of this in the, actually that's where it came from. I did a variation of this in the triangle first. So there's this one here. And that's what led to, oh, I wonder what would happen in a square. Okay, other variants. I took a mulligon shape. And mulligons are, you start with a curve and then you go back and add a wider curve. So they end up like a crescent moon shape, but with rounded edges. And two possible, well, there's more than two, but two places that seem logical to me. But this is the one that felt the most logical to me to do first. And I actually rather like that. It ends up looking like a curly shell. So that's quite nice. The other one, I had thought about putting this on this side, but you'd end up with a weird shape. And I've just thought, if I pop it here, then I would end up with a different kind of shape of a shell like that. So that's an interesting one, is by popping it there. I did do it with that shape at the end, but I really wasn't very fussed on that one, although I think it could work. Looking at it now, if I do something like that, they do help to bring that shape out, but I'm not so fussed on that one. Because, let me have a look. So I've just thought about, if I do this again, but here I started the aura lines from the bottom. What would happen if I started them from the top? And actually, I think they work quite nicely that way. Yeah, that feels much nicer than that one, though I think there's potential there. A rectangle, well, it works like a square. Teardrops are fab. The teardrop shape is fantastic for this. And I found that I really, I'll show you, it works at the bottom, at the top, and that side, you know, sort of like centre bottom, to one side at the bottom or to one side at the top. This works beautifully. And along one side it kind of does. You know, in this kind of shape. So I'm just putting the shape in and auraing it before I start. And then on here, I've started getting the lines to spread out from the bottom. This sack, I've done it with the lines radiating out from the bottom, so I can fit another zack in here. We pop that on, and instead of starting at this point, start the auras from this side. And again, that gives a completely different feel to it, doesn't it? But it's the same idea, it's just where you start these lines. So with this one, you have a look, where have I got this one? There. So instead of starting at the bottom, if I start at the top of this, get a different kind, it's much more shell-like than that one. Yeah, compare them. So just by that simple adjustment of whether I start from the bottom or the top. Same with this triangle. I've just made this realization, haven't I? So I'm playing more here. So if I do that as well, but instead of starting these lines at the bottom of this shape, let's start at the top and see what happens. So that is a different variation again. It's really quite nice actually in some ways. You got I feel you get a lot more open space with that. So there's that one. Okay. Circles, a no-brainer. That works beautifully. And it doesn't matter where you pop it on a circle, it's going to work the same way, and it's always going to be, you know, sort of central to the line, so it doesn't matter if you aura the lines from the top or the bottom. You'll end up with the same shape. Just depends which way you want these lines to curve, I suppose. Let's pop that in there just to define that. So that works nicely. Irregular shapes actually work quite well with this. You just pick somewhere to pop your seed shape. I'm just going to aura it because I find that is quite a nice thing to do, is to add that thin aura. But you know, I like my auras anyway. My double borders, whatever you want to call them, borders with two lines. So that's quite nice, and it looks like you've got a hole looking into the ground there. So that works nicely. It does depend on where you choose to put the shape as to what you end up with as well. So here, I think if I go this way, I think I end up with something that's a lot more shell shape. I could be wrong, mind you. No, I do, I think. Or perhaps it's just because I've got it the right way up. But you can choose where you put it, whether you put them in a dip or over. That's the other one. Is to pop that shape over one of these bits that's sticky in. I think that will give you that difference. And of course you can choose how far around you want to, or you could stop there. I'm not going to, because I think the whole shape needs to be done. So that was fun. I then went on to look at half teardrops, half semicircles and semi-zacks, semi-seed shapes, and irregular shaped triangles, but they're half. It's where you with teardrop shape, you'll end up with that shape right at the top center. So is this dry? No, it'll do. So with this half shape, I'll draw two side by side with a gap between them. So if I draw that rice shape, so it's along the straighter edge of that half teardrop shape, then aura this way. If you put them together, you get a full teardrop shape. You know me. Oh, we're going to have a bone there. That's okay. Bone of contention. All right, so you can join them together. You can put them together without that gap. And the same would be true of a semicircular shape. So if I do this, then if I put that, you know, sort of like that arc in, like we do in the beginning of Zach, then if I've mirrored it, I will get this. Okay. Wonder what would happen if I rotated. So I'll pop one there and one here. Ooh, that's interesting. Look at that. That wasn't intentional, but it's just how it happened as I drew them the same kind of way. So let me just do that and that. That's interesting, because I will get some odd connections or odd ways that these lines could connect, but I think that's where this boundary between them comes in handy. There are some that will connect, but others will obviously go behind, so that's an interesting one. And the last one I did were these here, which is like that long thin, is it flukes, decks, it's something like that, but it's where you take a fragment, usually a square one was the original, but it works for any. You draw a line from the center and then lines from the side, and I'm making these narrow in, and then we can pop a fragment in the top. Now here I've done the zack as it is there, but what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to pop this in, and I'm going to do half zacks. And so we get something that's sort of crystal-y like. There's loads here, isn't there? Absolutely loads. And I've got others on this side, so I'm going to have to repeat these ideas on another piece of paper and put it here to get a photograph, I think. But there is so much. And there's more, I'm sure there's more here with the different shapes. If I take one of the squares and draw a square, and it is a square, it's just on its point so it looks like a diamond. And again, I'm going to pop that in, and I think I'm going to do this one here, where I've got those two starting patterns, but I'm going to just aura instead of trying to get those to go down to the bottom, and I can just pop some black in there. Endless possibilities, starting with this particular shape. Yeah, this pen actually does work better on this Canson Imagine paper that hasn't been treated with distress inks. I'm going to have to find out whether distress inks can be, I'm sure distress inks can be applied on the top. I just need to have a look to see, because with things like Micron's Unipin pens, because they've got pigment in them, then they do tend to, they've got little particles, solid particles in there that can be moved by the distress ink mixture, whatever's in it, formulation. But it's, you know, live and learn, don't you? We get things done. So there we are. I didn't intend to do such a long video today for you, but tons and tons of variations and things to think about, and how one thing can lead to another. And you got to see some other stuff I'm working on as well, and what I did with yesterday's so far. So I'm just going to say thank you very much, especially if you stuck through to the end here. And again, if you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you like what you see in the channel, consider subscribing. If you know friends or other people who might find this useful, if they're into Zentangle or line drawing of any kind, meditative drawing, they may find it useful, share. And if you want to be notified when I release a video, then hit the bell, because I do most days, but it tends to vary in time, and some days I may not, and I've got no way of letting you know that other than through my social media. So, you know, I'll always mention on there that I can't do a video for whatever reason. So until I see you again, take care, look after yourselves, and find time to be creative. Bye-bye.